We're going to talk a little bit about the old Donnie Trump. Obviously, Donald Trump is probably the most polarizing figure. He's by far the biggest celebrity in the world right now. Hate him or love him, you got to talk about him. Everybody knows him. And whether that's for the right reasons or not. I mean, that's why I said, definitely the most polarizing, because there's a whole bunch of people on one side of the fence that are like, hey, fuck this dude. And then you got the other side that are like, they love him, and he is favorited by lots of different people. Far right, middle, and then you got the left, who just said, and that's just them. But he's got a lot of problems right now. And number one, he's got to post a $500,000 bond in this civil fraud case deal in New York, where they're basically telling him that he committed fraud by inflating his real estate assets, which is like, that just goes to show you that they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel to try to get something on this guy, and that's what's crazy, is because the funniest thing is like, dude, they've been telling us for years that Trump is like the most evil, most corrupt, most terrible person, and it's like, okay, if that's true, then why are we trying so hard? Like, why are we going all the way to the back of the bus to like try to dig up the smallest, most minute things and make a big deal out of it? Like, dude, really? Like, in this civil fraud case, he was like, nobody got hurt. There was no victim. Like, everybody got paid. It's not even a big deal. Like, even the banks and the insurance companies were like, yeah, you got nothing. But they still hit him with a fucking huge fraud case, and like all these, he lost, and now he's got to put up a $500 million, $500 million bond to kind of prove it's just an appeal. He's got to appeal this judgment against him, and even though Trump is extremely wealthy, you can't just pull $500 million out your ass. Okay, I don't care who you are. And we're gonna read into this a little bit. I don't want to read CNN. All right, we'll go to the New York Times. So here's what happens if he can't come up with the money. Donald J. Trump's lawyers told a judge that their client could not come up with the collateral needed to stave off efforts to collect a $454 million judgment. He has 6 days left. Okay. Now, there's some people who love that and are like, oh, they're going to say what they're going to say. But, dude, that's an ungodly amount of money and an absurd amount of time to come up with the money. And this is all bullshit. Dude, the worst part about it is, the prosecuting attorney literally went to the rest of the New York real estate developers and was like, oh, no, you guys are fine. Trump is who we're after. Because when this civil judgment when this case came down on Trump, every other real estate developer is like, whoa, hey, we're also doing that. Like, literally all of them. So now they're thinking, all right, is the federal government going to start coming after us? And it's like, well, as long as you're not running for president, no. So that right there just tells you, and I don't see how this court or how this case can even be taken seriously because of that. Like, how do you charge a guy for conspiracy and all this fucking shit, and basically saying that he inflated his assets, and then charge him, and they're gonna try to take away they're gonna basically seize his properties if he doesn't come up with his money. And then you're going to tell the rest of the people that have done the exact same thing, like, oh, no, you guys are fine. Don't worry about it. It's just, I can't fucking believe this. So, by Monday, March 25th, the former president must secure an appeal bond or roughly $500 million in his civil fraud case in New York, and his ability to do so was called into question this week. Yeah. In a court filing, Mr. Trump's lawyers revealed that he had been unable to secure an appeal bond despite diligent efforts that included approaching about 30 bond companies. While Mr. Trump this month managed to post a $91.6 million bond on another case, which was complete bullshit, the E. Jean Carroll case. And something interesting about that is, like, I'm not even going to get into that right now. We'll cover that. We'll cover that here in a minute. Mr. Trump this month managed to post a $91.6 million bond in his defamation case against writer E. Jean Carroll, securing the deal at the 11th hour from a large insurance company. He lacks the assets needed to secure the far bigger guarantee for the fraud case. If he cannot produce the bond in time, Mr. Trump faces the possibility of financial disaster and humiliation. New York's Attorney General Letitia James, who brought the fraud case, would be entitled to collect the $454 million and could seek to seize Mr. Trump's New York properties or freeze his bank accounts. That's the ultimate goal. This is why this case is so important. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to just stop him from being able to run for president. And when you do that against a guy who's, dominating in the polls, he's clearly won the Republican nomination. It's going to be him versus Biden. The only way to stop that is to hit him with lawsuits and try to drain his bank accounts. And this Letitia James literally, it's just so fucking obvious what they're doing. And this is sick and this is scary because they can do this to anyone, okay? This is what is, the biggest problem with what's going on. And when they say that the justice system is being weaponized to eviscerate political opponents. When your country starts participating in this type of behavior, it's a very slippery slope, and you can pretty much bet your ass that, freedom and the sovereignty of this country is on its way out, okay? Because we're in a very, very scary place right now. I mean, this is like this is the war before the war, okay? There's no shots being fired yet, but there's shots being fired, okay? Like, they're throwing daggers right now. It's getting nasty. It's getting real ugly. I mean, look, they're really scraping all the way to the bottom of the barrel to try to get this guy who's leading in the polls, and is just the biggest threat to Democrats as a whole. Donald Trump is the biggest threat to the Democrats, not just, Democrats in Washington, but Democrats around the world. He is the one thing standing in the way to this new world liberal agenda that half of the world seems to be okay with and seem to want that to be the way the world goes. That's how civilization is going to be from now on. And Donald Trump is in the way of all that. And we need him to be, because you have to have a balance of power. And Democrats are doing their damnedest to create one-party rule in which they have all the power and they stay there forever. And Trump is kind of the last line of defense. And you can see how desperate and how willing they are to do just about anything to make sure that they create this one-party system, and Donald Trump does not get in there and cause problems. And I really think that this is a type of evil that we're going to be dealing with forever. Even if Donald Trump gets in and he serves 4 more years, guess what? The whole fucking shit starts over once he's on his way out. Those people are never, ever going to give up. This is a never-ending good versus evil story. But it's just really, really getting out of hand right now. But we'll see what happens. There's all kinds of lawsuits against Donald Trump right now. The E. Jean Carroll thing is even more bizarre. Because they can come out and let's say, me or you or whoever, let's say it wasn't Donald Trump, it was somebody else. This sets a precedent that basically if your political adversaries don't like you, they can't just attack you about your bad policy. They can come after you in any way, shape, or form possible, and they can label you a racist. They can charge you with sex crimes. They can charge you with, fraud in your business and, cause all these problems. And they can literally use the justice system to bring you down. And both sides can do this to each other. It's like, it's insane. This is very, very scary. If anybody's running for president, they can, and you're doing well, and the other side doesn't see any possible way to beat you politically, they're just gonna, they're gonna start throwing sucker punches, and they're gonna attack your character. They're gonna call you a rapist and a racist, and they're gonna call you anything that is going to get people emotionally charged. And politics is already kind of one of those things that gets people very emotionally charged. But whenever they start calling you a rapist, and, even though Trump was not convicted of rape and the rape case was not a criminal trial, it was a civil trial about being called a liar. So this is what's really crazy is how they say Donald Trump, they label him a rapist now. But that's not what he was convicted of. He wasn't convicted of anything. He lost a defamation class action lawsuit where the person who said that he raped her, she said that by him denying the allegations that it hurt her character and it caused her financial pain. So she then sues for defamation. Like, hey, you calling me a liar, that I'm entitled to financial compensation. It's like, whoa. You called me a rapist. I should be suing you. So she didn't have to prove that he raped her. She had to prove what is known as not beyond a reasonable doubt. So let's I'll explain the civil versus criminal trial and why this is important for people. You need to understand what Donald Trump was actually accused of, what actually took place there in this defamation lawsuit with E. Jean Carroll. You have to understand the difference between a criminal trial and a civil trial. Okay, so in a civil trial, in a civil case, three-fourths or more jurors may return a verdict, whereas in a criminal case, the verdict must be unanimous. You may be called to serve on either a civil or a criminal case. In a civil case, the party filing the lawsuit is called the plaintiff. Okay, what is the difference between criminal and civil evidence? Okay, so here it is. All right, so civil cases are one, if the plaintiff proves their case by the preponderance of the evidence, while criminal convictions follow if the prosecutor proves their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, so that's the big thing. And this is why Trump is not a convicted rapist, because they didn't prove that he did that beyond a reasonable doubt. What they were able to prove, which is not hard to do, is preponderance of the evidence. Okay, preponderance of the evidence. Let's Google that phrase. Which basically, preponderance of the evidence is just basically, hey, if the people in this room hate the guy on the stand and they side with me, then I win. And that's pretty much what happened. To prove an element by a preponderance of the evidence simply means to prove that something is more likely than not. There it is. So proving preponderance of the evidence in a New York courtroom. So before this trial even went on, Donald Trump was saying, hey, I'm not going to get a fair trial. I'm not going to get a fair trial. Okay, these jurors, these judges, this whole fucking thing is rigged against me. And all, like, this lady comes out, says, hey, he raped me. He says, you're a fucking liar. And she goes, oh, how dare you? How dare you? So she then turns around and, sues him for defamation, saying that he hurt her character. She gets awarded $80 million because of this preponderance of the evidence, okay? And the fact that these news stations can come out and say that Donald Trump is a rapist is also defamation, okay? Because he's not a convicted rapist. Nothing was ever proved that he raped anybody, okay? It was just, I think what happened is they were able to prove that he hurt her character, that this whole rape story and all this stuff and his reaction to being called a rapist hurt her financially, and that his reaction to being called a rapist was so that he had basically mistreated her, and she is awarded to financial compensation based off Trump's reaction to being called a rapist, which is crazy. Imagine if somebody accuses you of rape and you go, hey, no, I didn't. I wouldn't rape you. For one, I'm not a rapist. I've never raped anybody. And hey, sorry, lady, but you're not my type. And then she turns around and sues you for $80 million for basically calling her ugly. And then it goes to trial, and you find out that all this lady has to do is just convince the people on the jury who don't fucking like you because whatever reason. In Trump's case, because he gets shit on in the news 24/7. So that's not fair. But all they have to do is this lady just has to convince these people that it more than likely happened. Doesn't have to provide really any evidence. She just has to be convincing enough. And if those people are on her side, guess what? You got to fork up like $90 million. This is insane. And the people who lose here the most are actual rape victims. People who have actually been raped and were not awarded lots of money because the person who raped them didn't have, a bunch of money. And I feel bad for those people, who have legitimately been raped, and they see these people coming out here and falsely accusing and basically using their story and their situation as a way to advance their financial status in the world. E. Jean Carroll was seen caught on tape, talking about what she was going to do with the money. It's like, that's not a response of somebody who's actually been raped. It's all about, if, rapists should be convicted. A rape should not be a civil trial. It should be a criminal trial. Okay, if you're saying that you were raped, why are you filing a defamation lawsuit? You should be filing a criminal suit. But it's sad. I feel bad for women who see somebody like E. Jean Carroll and are like, this lady, made, kind of piggybacked off of my misfortune to make millions and millions of dollars. And it's going to, it just sets a bad precedent because it makes it less likely for people to be believed when a rape does happen. Okay, it's like, okay, is this lady just trying to get some money, or was she actually raped? And you don't want that. You don't want that. But Politics is more important. Keeping Donald Trump out of the White House at all costs is more important. Hey, it doesn't matter if we're doing a major disservice to women and rape victims. As long as Donald Trump is not in the White House come November, mission accomplished. Ooh, and I think that just sets a really, really bad precedent. So yeah, Donald Trump is, I don't know what's going to happen here. It seems like he's always able to, pull it out. I think he'll be all right. We'll see, if they seize his assets, seize his bank accounts. I don't know. He's a pretty crafty guy. I think if they were going to get him, they would have got him by now. The dude is super resilient, never gives up. I think he's going to fight this thing all the way to the end. And obviously I'm pulling for him. It's just crazy, how this is all going to play out. It's not even April yet. The election's not till November, and shit is already complete chaos in this country. Lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. This is, I really do feel like that this is this is the war before the war. But we'll see how it all plays out. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for hanging out with me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on all the socials. And like I said, just keep watching. I like making these videos for y'all. I like putting the information out. Like I said, we need more people to speak out against some of the things that are going on. More information, more people informing the public on what's going on. Okay, so on top of all that, Trump recently made some comments, the bloodbath comment. Let's address that. It's all over the news right now, and obviously the left is doing what the left does, and spinning it to fit their narrative. Me personally, I know what he's talking about because I watched the clip, and I watched part of the speech. And he was basically just kind of detailing, the left's moves, what is being played out right in front of our eyes day in and day out, this agenda that's being carried out. And basically, hey, what he says is like, hey, if I don't get elected and, nobody gets in the way and does anything about this, it is going to be a bloodbath, We're in the midst of an all-out, conflict here at home, and I've said it several times. But for them to just take this completely out of context and spin it to their narrative is just ridiculous. There's probably an article that we can kind of pull up and go a little bit more into detail. I'm going to type in the Trump bloodbath comments. Bloodbath. That's how they... Okay, so it was in I guess he was in Ohio whenever he said this. Trump ramps up dark rhetoric in Ohio. Stump speech to Senate candidate Bernie Moreno. So the New York Times, let's see what this says. So he said he had been referring only to the auto industry. That's right. He was talking about the ridiculous car mandates. Okay, so former President Donald J. Trump on Monday sought to defend his declaration over the weekend that the country would face a bloodbath if he lost in November. I agree. Now, all out, war and shots fired in the streets. I don't think we're there yet. And even if he's not elected, I don't think it's an immediate thing. But people need to be aware of how close we actually are to an all-out conflict here in America. We have an army full of immigrants, illegal immigrants. There's an army full of million. There's 20 million, 15, 20 million illegal immigrants in this country. If they all come together, that's an all-out army, okay? That would be a very serious problem. The fake news media and their Democrat partners in the destruction of our nation pretended to be shocked at my use of the word bloodbath, even though they fully understood that I was simply referring to imports allowed by crooked Joe Biden. Okay, so yeah, I guess China is building a bunch of vehicles in Mexico, and they plan to sell them to the United States and not have to pay any sort of tariffs, and they're going to get tax, breaks from it. And basically, Donald Trump was saying, hey, I have a good relationship with the dictator of China, Xi Jinping, but if they think that they're going to get away with doing this and making money off of basically getting money out of our ass, think again. And the bloodbath comment is basically just, hey, you're going to get more of, what Joe Biden allows to happen to this country where, we get taken advantage of. And I think a lot of people don't really understand, the politics and the economics of trade because it's kind of complex. I mean, it's not really, but it takes research, to understand, these trade deals and how different countries get their products into our country and how like the business end of that, who pays what, who eats this, who eats that, and basically what Donald Trump, one of the best things that Donald Trump did in his administration was kind of awaken people to what was really happening as far as like our country really getting taken advantage of by other big powerful nations, really, getting to do whatever they want and really getting the upper hand on us financially in these trade negotiations. And that's one thing that I really do like about Donald Trump is just the fact that, he talked about it. He was open about it. So I'm going to keep going here. I was simply referring to imports allowed by the crooked Joe Biden, which are killing the auto industry, he wrote on his social media platform. He made the remarks in Ohio on Saturday in a speech delivered on behalf of Bernie Moreno, whom he has endorsed in Tuesday's Republican Senate primary. After vowing to impose tariffs on cars manufactured outside the United States, he then said, "Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country." In the same speech, Mr. Trump called some migrants animals and not people. Okay, well, I would say that those are probably in reference to the Lycan. Oh shit! What is her name? God, I'm worse than Joe Biden. Laken Riley, the girl that was killed, the college student that was killed, and all of the other stories and of these illegal immigrants that come out on a daily basis online of they've either raped, murdered, assaulted, some sort of violent criminal act, and they walk. This kind of shit, that's what he's referring to. That's what we're all referring to when we say we're tired of the illegal immigrants. We're not racist for not wanting people to be hurt and raped and murdered. So I'm going to go on. It's just crazy that we have to explain this. In the same speech, Mr. Trump called some migrants animals and not people, in my opinion. Described people convicted in the connection with the January 6th attack on the Capitol as hostages and suggested that American democracy would end if he lost. I think that democracy is already been lost in this country just by moves that have been made on both sides. Weaponizing the justice system is, that's not democratic. That's not democracy. I don't think you're going to have another election, or certainly not an election that's meaningful, he said. Mr. Trump has embraced violent messaging since he first ran for president, at one point telling his supporters that he would pay their legal expenses if they attacked a protester at one of his rallies. He escalated his rhetoric after he lost in 2020, encouraging his supporters who ended up storming the Capitol. He still describes them as prosecuted patriots. Now, in his third presidential run, he has some more explicit. He said in September that shoplifters should be shot and that Mark Milley, a former chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, should be executed. That is also taken completely out of context, and we've all seen that. What he said was that, based on what Milley had done years ago, that would have been, high treason, and the penalty for that was death. He didn't say, hey, they should kill this guy. But we all know that. That's just the length that they go to try to discredit Donald Trump. Completely taking things out of context. And same with this story. And on Sunday, the day after the Ohio rally, Fox News broadcast an interview with Mr. Trump in which he repeated his past assertions that migrants were poisoning the blood of the country. Supporters of Mr. Trump, including the mob that attacked the Capitol on January 6, 2021, have over time responded to his words with action, even when his language is ambiguous. Law enforcement officials and prosecutors involved in the criminal case against the former president have received threats. So have election workers, election administrators, and officials who refuse to go along with Mr. Trump's attempt to overthrow the 2020 election. Okay, death threats and threats are... unfortunately, yeah, like I probably will get death threats for posting this type of content on YouTube. You just ignore it. I love how they try to run with that, as if there's people like as if Trump supporters are the only people who make ridiculous threats, keyboard warriors, dude. The crazy libtards are doing that shit too. How many death threats has Donald Trump gotten? Or anybody who supports him. Bro, I've seen when in 2016 there was people getting beat over the head with bike locks just for having a fucking red hat on. Like, I love how they try to make it seem like only Trump supporters are like extreme. Anyway, sorry, I just received a text and I was reading it. President Biden's campaign responded to the objection with a video montage that included the bloodbath comment alongside footage of Mr. Trump saying there were very fine people on both sides of the 2017 white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by, and pledging to pardon January 6 defendants. MAGA wanted context, so we gave them context, a Biden spokesman, Parker Butler, wrote on social media on Monday. Many Republicans responded to Mr. Trump's latest comments by defending him or equivocating. Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota and Representative Michael Turner of Ohio were both asked about the bloodbath remark on Sunday morning. Talk shows indicated that they didn't believe Mr. Trump had been calling for violence because he wasn't. The president's statements concerning bloodbath were about what would happen in the auto industry if actually the Chinese manufacturers who are coming into Mexico were permitted to import to the United States. Yeah, basically it's just we're going to get taken advantage of. We're going to pay, and China's going to get a really, really, really good deal and make tons of money off our backs. And, that's just, it's a big thing that Trump was always against. Now, it's hard to say that, it's going to be a bloodbath if he's not elected. I think what they're really trying to say is that, hey, if I don't get elected, I'm going to get all my minions to start attacking people. That's what they're trying to put in the mind of the American public. Now, obviously, this isn't going to work on people who are, have a brain, but the deranged people with Trump derangement syndrome, that's what is already in their head, and this is just, kind of some more icing on the cake. That kind of rhetoric, it's always on the edge, maybe doesn't cross, maybe does, depending upon your perspective, Mr. Cassidy said. Mr. Trump, for his part, on Monday, followed up his post defending his remarks with another visceral all-caps appeal. Our once great country is going down the drain. We are a nation in decline. Vote for Trump. What the hell do you have to lose? Our country. That's what we have to lose. Our way of life. You're either going to get replaced by an illegal immigrant, or AI. I mean, that's what we're up against. American citizens. That's basically what our representatives are telling us. Hey, be prepared to be replaced by an illegal immigrant or AI. How are people going to be able to support themselves and take care of their families and support the economy when all the money is going to illegal immigrants and they're sending it back to their country, or the jobs are getting done by AI? It's not a very good outlook. It's not a good precedent. These people are worried. This is the main concern of pretty much every Trump supporter. It should be the main concern of every person in America. But unfortunately, we have a bunch of people that are just deranged by this guy. Their hatred for Trump outweighs their ability to be able to see anything that could help them. It's just crazy. As for the bloodbath comments, no, I don't believe that Donald Trump, if not elected, is going to rally the troops to start attacking people and go into an all-out conflict against the American people. But it is important that people know just kind of how close we are to an all-out conflict. We are in a conflict. It's not a violent and dangerous yet, but man, it's here, and it's really happening. What's up, guys? My name is Joe Davis. I'm the host of the Garbage to Gold podcast, and if you like the video that you just seen and you want to see more, click right here, and if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.